We have to create the right vibe, the energy, and everybody at the organization has to feel so privileged to be here. It's no other way.
Thanks for listening to the Purely Arsenal podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at Purely Arsenal FP for all the latest Arsenal podcasts.
Welcome to another episode of a Purely Arsenal sit-down podcast. I'm here with my regular Neil Shah to discuss a 6-0 hammering of West Ham. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Neil, how are you?
I'm good. A bit disappointed we didn't get the 7, so I think Arteta's out for that reason. Terrible substitutions.
Yes.
Tough. Bad.
Sorry to interrupt you. It would have been our 7. Am I right in saying 7-0 would have been our biggest ever on record away record? But 6-0 is matching the one in 1935 or something. But it's our top one in the Premier League, as far as I'm aware.
The Premier,
Still some record, mate. And even your optimistic side, I don't think even you predicted a 6-0 win. No. And it was pretty mega. I was going to go with West Hammered for the name, but I thought that was kind of short and sweet. But then I thought other people might use it, so I texted over to my dad and I said, what do you reckon? He said, Dec-Lands, hammer blow, and I was like, oh, that's good. Yeah, we like that. A little bit of Declan Rice in there, so we'll do that. Dec-Lands, hammer blow. But fantastic. Look, let's get into it. Neil, 6-0. The aftermath of the Liverpool game, lots was talked about the celebrations. Oh, we've gone over it. But also, really, what's more specific than that sort of ridiculous conversation that the media decided to have was it is quite hard sometimes to come off of a really big victory, which it was. It was a huge victory. Put us back into the mixer, if you like, with the front of right at the top of the table, to then go on to another game, which is another really tough game. I mean, West Ham were 6th or 7th, I think, going into this game. They're on a difficult run recently, but having a very good season. They had a lot of their players back from, AFCON and things like that. Kudos came back. Paqueta was the only one out. Whereas we had a lot of players out for this game. I had a few concerns for the lineup, to be honest, or more for the squad, because, we'd found out an hour before that Zinchenko was still out. Tomiyasu somehow hadn't made the squad. Smith Rowe had picked up yet another injury. Partey still wasn't fit. And obviously we still had the absentees of Timber and Vieira. And what that really allowed was sort of a few youngsters that even I personally hadn't even heard of. Being on the Bandera, was it? I haven't heard of Bandera too much on the bench. And whilst the first 11 looked very, very strong, I don't know about you, but do you have any worries sort of going, we don't have a lot to change it from the bench here? Because it did look pretty thin.
I guess so. I think more so because of the nature of who we were playing. We're playing West Ham, as you said. They're not easy. We're playing away from home. But I think we haven't had a bad record against them, to be fair, away from home. So that kind of mitigated it a little bit. But the only thing is we had the issue of them going for a treble, or their treble against us. They'd already beaten us twice this season. And I don't recall the last time they'd done that. That's been a long time as well. So there was a bit of trepidation there. I was a little bit worried about the bench, but then I thought the way we played against Liverpool, and let me just quickly cite out a couple of players straight away off the bat. Kiwi obviously came back in. And I think if it hadn't been for his second half appearance against Liverpool and then an unknown factor there, so say he hadn't featured at all, he was terrific against Liverpool, I would have had more concerns, Jack. But because we'd seen how he was and how he played, I wasn't too worried. And again, he was great. Right from the bat, he made a great defensive move, I think, which stopped one of their rare moves. I think it was right at the beginning. It was literally in the first few minutes. Yeah. And then he was popping up, helping out defensively as well. There was that cross that Saka headed and, we could have done better with. I think he actually created the corner which led to our first goal that Rice took. And he was involved in a lot. And I think he's a solid looking player. And I actually believe this. You might think I'm wrong, but I think once Timber's fit and he's in his run back and fit and running, I think Zinchenko might be dropped to third because Kiwior's looking pretty decent to me. Not third in the sense that not like the way Tierney was kind of pushed out or pushed back, but I think he will start favouring Kiwior on quite a lot of the games. I think anyway, because he's looking good, Jack. He's impressing me a lot. And I also just want to quickly mention Havertz. I know I'm digressing here, but I want to get this out before, unless I forget. Havertz, again, there's been a lot of debate about what he is. Is he useful? Is he the right player? All of that stuff. If you look at that match closely, I've because we've delayed the pod, so a lot down to me, but this pod has taken a bit of time to get out. I think I've watched the highlights about 4 or 5 times there, which is quite rare for me. And I specifically yesterday, or last few hours ago before this one, I singled out Havertz. I thought, let me just look at him. And he was involved in a couple of the goals, the build-up. But in a lot of the chances that we missed, he's involved, Jack. He's there. He's creating things. He's making himself a nuisance for the defenders. He's getting in the way with his frame. And he's doing a lot of work, which ordinarily would go unnoticed. Yeah. And I'm really starting to warm to him. The way I warmed to Raya, who again I thought had a great game, the way I've started to warm to Raya, I'm really warming to Havertz, and I've got no issue now. So if ever we're waiting for the team selection and I see his name there, I haven't got a problem anymore, Jack. Whereas before I'd think, what the hell is he doing in the team because he's unbalancing it? I don't think he's unbalancing it anymore. And it's the word balance that comes to mind for me now. You know, I was saying that we got it right offensively last season and we got it right this season defensively, but we haven't combined the two yet. I think in the last couple of games, we've got that right now. Offensively, we were unbelievable. I mean, records were broken, statistics were blown out of the air since the Opta thing started. We can see that. And what I liked about this game was we could have had 4. We could have picked 4 men of the match. And remember we were saying that, remember when James was on the pod recently, but it's a good sign when we don't know who to pick because there's so many. We've got back to that again, I think. And I think this run of 4 games, 16 goals in 4 games, I mean, that's brilliant. With only 2 conceded. Unbelievable. What a great run. So I probably haven't even answered your question. I forgot what it was, but I know the concerns. We
also had Jesus out, of course. That was the one that I missed.
Jesus as well. And this is the thing that annoys me. Liverpool have Salah out, and a big deal was made about it all over the board. How many players have we got out? There's got so many players out. Yeah. And we literally took them to the cleaners. I don't think I've seen a more devastating performance, and I'm not going to have this that West Ham played badly, they were rubbish. Yeah, they probably made it defensively easier for us because their heads dropped, which is fine. I mean, who said wouldn't drop when you score 3 goals in 6 minutes before half time? I think any team would be pretty much ruined. But we're still making it difficult for the opposition. It's what we did against Liverpool. I think we're playing terrifically at the moment. I think that momentum is currently with us. I know at Man City we're robots and they're brilliant, but I think we're doing all right at the moment, Jack. So,
yeah. No, it's been a fantastic return from the break, and obviously a poor month before the break where there was a lot of questions and we were trying to really see what we were going to be like coming back, and we clearly come back in a different vein of form, and our attacks firing again. But it's interesting you bring up those 2 players because I think they've slightly changed positionally since they've come back, and maybe they've flourished because of it. Like, I don't know if you noticed in this game, but and probably against Liverpool, Kiwior played much more sort of traditional left-back areas than inverted areas. And against Liverpool, we didn't need to invert because Jorginho was there. And in this game, Ben White started to invert more. And I'd like to know the reason behind Ben White not really ever doing that much before. Because in the first game of the season, for example, we decided to put Thomas Partey out there and dropped Gabriel in favour of putting Ben White in centre-back. So he's obviously had a little bit of reluctance to use Ben White there. But Ben White's played in midfield before. He did it at Leeds. I mean, he did it once or twice for Brighton, I think. So he's obviously capable. He's very technically secure. I think maybe he's more technically secure than Kiwior, and Kiwior definitely looks more comfortable when he's not sort of trying to mimic the Zinchenko role. And I think that's a bit of growth from Mikel Arteta, really, because he sometimes just tries to put players into similar roles of the players they're replacing, where he's clearly adapted it for Kivior and said, clearly, this, you're not as comfortable with this. We're going to play you more like a sort of traditional sort of third centre back, if you like. And we look so much more comfortable, and he looks much more comfortable in our team. And like you said, like that, you start to see some really good things from him. The only concern, I think he's very fast, but every time he turns, I always feel like he sometimes lacks agility. But I also think that might just be a match fitness thing. So I'm really curious. I think he looks cleaner every game that I watch him. And you know, we need him because, like you said about Zinchenko dropping down to third, let's be honest, he's just not reliable fitness-wise. Before you even worry about the defensive issues of Zinchenko and him and Tomiyasu collectively, they're not reliable enough fitness-wise to be like they're your first choice. So even though I love Tomiyasu, and there's times where I love Zinchenko against sort of low blocks and stuff like that, they're just not fully reliable, and that's really difficult to account for, right? And the other one with Havertz in this game, it was interesting because it felt like him and Trossard were kind of flipping from the 8 to the 9 a lot. But I do feel Havertz has kind of started to get into the 9 position a little bit more, and with that, our attacks flourished more, whereas when he was sitting sort of closer to Declan Rice, felt like it was hindering us a little bit more. So in this game, I found it very, very difficult to pick up who was at the 9. Early on in the game, Trossard had a load of chances, header, shot, really well saved from the keeper. The goal, of course, where he was picking up the 9 spaces. But then as the game goes on, you see Havertz picking up those spaces too. And what I like about it is it's giving him a lot of different options, and probably beyond your Zinchenko talk, maybe not far around the corner, Neil, is the Jesus talk. And, you know, is Jesus the number one choice continuing to be? Because, again, he's not available enough. Let's be honest, he's not. And I said a few weeks ago when he played against Nottingham Forest and scored, and Mikel Arteta said he'd had a ton of swelling on his knee, but he really wanted to be out there today. I said, that is not a good answer to that question, because swelling on the knee and draining it or whatever you're doing, that is not a long-term solution. It's going to bite us. And since then, we haven't seen him in the squad. And I don't know. We're hearing a lot of the short-term stuff, but I just get this feeling with Jesus, it's going to be, a game in, a game out, or something like that. Or it just doesn't sound great. And he's had a lot of knee issues with us already. So I think it's really those discussions are probably to come in terms of Jesus and Zinchenko's role and hierarchy in the team. But what brilliant signs that we're finding alternative options, but also ones that making the team flourish. Like if you said our attack was flourishing with 16 goals in 4 games without Jesus in it, after what we'd seen earlier in this season, you'd be like, no chance. We've got to have Jesus there. If you said it in Dubai break, we're not going to have Jesus for the next 3 or 4 games, or 2 of the next 3 or 4 games, you'd be like, oh, no, we've got to have him. He's the key link. And we're proving we've got other options there. I don't know what that means for Eddie and Ketia, but I think we all know what it should mean for him. But yeah, I mean, saying all that, it took us 30 minutes to get the first goal. We were peppering them throughout. I mean, we should have scored. Saka had a header or 2 that he should have scored from, right? One, definitely he should have scored from. And Trossard as well, and a good shot save, but also a header, I think, from what I remember, he should have scored from. The 2 standout players were probably Declan Rice and Martin Odegaard, but you could probably take your pick, like you said, 3, 4, 5s, like you said. But what are your thoughts on Declan Rice being moved to the sort of set piece taker? He took the set piece for Saliba's first goal, took the set piece for the 3rd goal against Gabriel. I think was the first time we saw this against Palace on the return. I think it was, wasn't it? That was when we first started to see. It's been since Dubai. He's not been taking set pieces before that much, I don't think, because, for example, when we scored late on against Man U, it was him scoring from the corners, wasn't it? So I want to say it's been a recent thing, but he's got an unbelievable dead ball, Neil.
I think the set piece coach has certainly been behind this 100%, because he's got them moving in the box in such a great way, very aggressive. The firstly, Declan Rice as a choice. Do you remember, was it in the last, I don't know which pod it was, but I was like, it might not even been on your show, I can't remember, but I remember saying, I'd rather see someone as big as him in the box. He's a big lad. What's he doing taking the corners? Because we should have, if you've got 11 professionals or 10 outfield professionals on the pitch, surely they know how to take a corner. It's one of the most basic skills to learn. So why the hell have you got someone like, why is it a goal scorer, a potential goal scorer is taking these corners? But I'm going to eat my words. I think it's the right choice. He did it for West Ham, didn't he? And I think the way I think, was it the first goal? Or it was the first goal where they're all, it's the far post, isn't it, that he aims for?
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic, unbelievable corner.
Yeah.
It was right in exactly where I think the West Ham players or the defenders were expecting the four at the back or the far post to come in.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They stood back. I think it was really clever because the corner before that, they moved towards the near post. And I think it was like, it confused them. And that's all work by the set piece coach. I think it's very clever. He goes, we'll do it like this here, and then we'll do it like this there. Really bamboozle the defence. I think it's fantastic dead ball, as you said. And even with the third goal from the free kick, I think which Trossard had won, again, perfectly. And that was more aimed at the near post, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. Was it? Or was it the far post again? I think it was. The
third goal, the Gabriel's goal?
Yes.
Yeah, that was near post, yeah. That was a fantastic ball. Fantastic.
And again, perfectly picked out.
So perfect that if he hadn't caught it, I think Havertz was right behind it.
No, that was the first one. That was the first one.
That was the first one, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So but you're right for the same reason, but just for the different goal, the first goal. When Saliba headed that, Havertz was right there. So you're right, Saliba. I didn't realise how big he was because Saliba's a monster. But Havertz almost dwarfed him in that. But maybe it's just because he's rising. But Jesus Christ, he looks huge. But anyway, perfect. So what do I think about Declan Rice taking them? He should take them.
Yeah,
100% because he's so good. And can I just quickly say about the really good points you made earlier? Havertz and Jesus almost swapping. That interchangeability, which I saw in all the front lot, was brilliant. It worked so well. It was so fluid. And you even had Martinelli turning up on the right-hand side so many times. One of those chances, which again Havertz was involved with, Odegaard's ball was brilliant, but it was almost like a team goal. This is the one where Martinelli almost dinked across back, and Trossard created a great chance. Yeah. And the whole goal, great save from the goalkeeper. Again, Havertz was there again. He started the move, and he was there again. And I think he got a shout from Trossard to duck. So he ran with Trossard. Martinelli was on the right, and he was, and they were, and I think this is what was causing the Hammers' defence such problems because they didn't know who to mark, where to mark, because they were always in different positions. What about the penalty? Trossard was at the back creating the play. Indeed, it was Saka running through as the 9. Yeah. So it was wonderful stuff, Jack. I mean, how can you defend against that? You don't know who's going to be in what position. It was brilliant.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah, you were talking about the Trossard volley where Havertz ducked. Yeah, I remember that one. The interchange is fantastic. I think that's when you've got confident players, which we've had since the break, they're all interchanging. They're hard to pick up. They're hard to define by position. Whereas earlier in the season, it felt very, very rigid, very structured, very, the link up just didn't feel like it was there, and our wingers weren't flourishing because of it. But now I know Martinelli didn't score in this game, but again, the way him, and I think this was probably Saka's best game in a long time in many aspects as well. You know, the run he made off, he just looks like he's making those runs off the shoulder, those inside right channel runs. He's taking less touches with the ball. He's getting out of his feet quicker, and he's so dangerous when he's like that. But the first goal, he just such a good ball in that Saliba didn't really have to do much with it. He just plonked it down. It reminded me of the one against Fulham last season, where I think it was a Martinelli crossing. It was a Martinelli header from a Trossard cross. He just sort of dunked it. He didn't even have to move for it really, and that's quality of the ball. But. And then Gabriel's one. I mean, I think he's the joint top centre-back scorer in the league with David Luiz, Brazilian centre-back scorer. 14. He's got 4 this season. I mean, he's our best aerial threat without doubt. I mean, he's really good in the air. He's probably our best aerial threat, in terms of both halves and clearing the ball as well. But he was fantastic. I mean, both our centre backs were terrific, but Gabriel has been really, really fantastic since the break, and he's sort of just showing he's such a key part to the partnership back there. And like you said last week, that they are currently, I think, the best centre back partnership in the league. And if we can keep them together for the rest of the season, well, we've got a real chance, because they do not give up a lot of chances. We do not give up a lot of chances, and I know teams can still score, but data says we give up the least chances in the league, and we give up the least goals in the league currently as well. And and all the arguments about goals scored, well, we've scored more goals at this point this season as opposed to this point last season. So we're 1 goal ahead already. We might be 5 points behind, but we're 1 goal ahead. So everyone moaning about the goals that we're getting. We got 88 goals last season. It was a record for the club, I believe. And it might have been a record or close to one of the records in the league. I have to check that. But so goals, like we always have said, is not really a problem for us if we're playing properly and if everyone's linking. And what I really like about this is when we were playing like this last season, it was when Jesus was in the team, and he wasn't in the team, and we're looking so fluid. And it's really encouraging, I think, because if he comes back in, we know we're capable. If he's not there, we're proving we're capable. And it's just the same as when Partey's been out, right? I mean, he's been out all season, and we're proving we're capable in the centre midfield. And that's really a sign of progression of the squad, I think. And I know a lot of people, there's been a lot of arguments in the early portion of this season. Are we better than we were last season? Have we really improved? And I think that is a proof that as a squad, whether the points are showing it currently, but as a squad, I think there's a really good sign that we probably have. And you're right, it's all about peaking and at the right time, and no one's dropping points up top at the moment. So, but we're playing some really, really terrific stuff, which is really encouraging. For the second goal, great for Saka to step up for the penalty. I don't know if you had flashbacks of last season, but I definitely did at that point. I was like, oh God, this is reminding me of last season. And it felt like a long wait, because they were checking the offside. Which was I don't know why they were checking it for so long, and then they were checking something else as well, but he put it away really confidently, which was great. And we know Saka, he doesn't get knocked by penalty misses, so he'll turn up for the next one, which was fantastic. And yeah, like you said, those 3 goals in quick succession, but they really didn't create a thing, Neil. I don't think they had a shot on target until the 82nd minute. I mean, I know they were poor, but that is quite incredible to be that dominant away. They've beaten big sides there this season already. I mean, they beat United at home. They've given games to everyone. They don't get beaten by this at home. What's crazy is we had 5 shots more than this in the home game against them and lost 2-0. So that's where, results governed analysis a little bit. But it was a brilliant 3 or 4 goal stint of 15 minutes, wasn't it, Neil? And I guess out of those 3 or 4, maybe Trossard was the pick of the bunch in terms of individuality. He was fantastic as well, wasn't he, Trossard, in terms of his creativity, his ability to link from deep and just be at the 9. He's such a good player to have in that interior position, isn't he?
He's so enterprising, isn't he? You always feel that something's going to happen when he's there. And I think this again, what you touched on earlier about how him and Havertz and this interchangeability really worked for us. But he was again another one which I think was just bamboozling the defence. It was hard to understand what he was going to do. But he's very, very much like I think all our we're talking about men of the match. You got Rice, who's great with ball retention and progression. But what I like about Rice is he makes it look easy. He doesn't ever look like he's troubled. A bit like Saliba, I think. Nothing seems to worry him. He just gets on with it. But he's always looking to move forward. He's great at interceptions. He's just a wall, isn't he? He's a wall defensively, but he's always pushing the ball forward. He could have been man of the match. Odegaard, look at his numbers. 109 passes, 7 chances created, 2 assists. It's a record, isn't it, or something? It's ridiculous. And he was first in all his stats. There's a little table there, I think, that the Arsenal website put up. And he's first, and I think the only thing he was joint first was with the assists. It's the 2 assists he got because Rice got to, didn't he? And he scored as well. So it's unbelievable. And Trossard the same. It's just everything about what he was doing for me was about progression, was to create chaos going up front. But he was also back. He was linking up right at the back. He was then forward. Then he was doing something else up front on the right-hand side and then on the left-hand side. He was everywhere. He was everywhere. And his movement was so fluid. But they're all their movements fluid. It's just one of those days which worked offensively so well. Everyone was linking up. Everyone was passing fast. Everyone was just their mindset was attack for me. But while all of that was going on, we were very controlled defensively too. So you're talking about their shots on target. I think isn't it the last 2 games we've had one or two, 3 shots on target? Because Liverpool did have one all half.
There's a video going around showing these are all the shots we faced, and it's like a 3-second video. And it's Liverpool shooting from 30 yards, and then West Ham's one shot on target that was saved well from David Raya. But wasn't it great? I mean, that's amazing in itself. Wasn't it great as well to see? I think it was at 6-0 they had that first shot on target.
Defense.
How focused the defence were and keeping that clean sheet. And I was really curious to watch the second half for that reason. I was like, look, the game's won. Even I felt pretty confident the game was won at 4-0. But, you have a little flashbacks to the old Newcastle, which was the last time we were 4-0 up away from home, but it goes out your mind pretty quickly. But that's really important. It shows that clean sheets mean a lot to this group, this defensive group, right? And that's really important, Neil, let's be honest, because, the teams that win leagues do not concede a lot of goals. I mean, there's just no evidence of it. Even when we were sort of the latter stages last season and we were still kind of in it, I remember I used to always text John, I'm like, we've conceded too many goals. We were at 34, 35 conceded goals at that point. I went, we have conceded too many goals. There's just no way teams don't concede this many goals that win the league. And you need that attitude, don't you?
That's it, exactly that. You cannot win leagues scoring, I think, that many goals. It just doesn't work because it just doesn't. It's a well-known fact. If you look at all the best teams or all the teams that have won the league, if you look at their goals conceded, they're not huge. They're not huge because it's mathematically how it works. And this season we have tempered or improved that's part of what we were probably not so good at last season. And it's showing, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. We're 5 points behind. But I just think we're pacing it better. We are pacing it better. And yes, all right. I think a couple of pods ago, I said that we've already got to the point where we've already lost 4 games, and probably teams that win the league, like the goals conceded, you don't want to lose more than 5 if you want to stand a chance of winning the league. So we're like 1 game away. But I just think because we're pacing it well, maybe that might not be such a concern. But it does depend on the teams around us who are also playing very well. But I don't know. I think we're probably the form team at the moment. I think we are. No matter what Man City are doing, and with their players that have come back, and they're great, and Haaland's back, and De Bruyne's back, and and they won the Champions League after being down yesterday or whatever, or pegged back in it. I think with the momentum is with us at the moment, and just bear in mind we are in that 1 or 2 less competitions as well. I know that doesn't seem to matter with the likes of City, but it may do. It may do. They've just won the treble. Really, are they that good? They could potentially win 2 trebles in a row. They may do, but I think we've only got to focus on the 2 competitions now. And you're right. You said something earlier which really rung true with me. That I think Arteta's matured. His man management is a lot better. He's recognising it a little bit more now. He's starting to now, although it was bugging certainly me, because I get behind all the young players, but he's starting to now. He trusted in, and where he, against West Ham as well. I was shocked to see him come on for that length of time. I was so happy for him. So he's starting to maybe trust in a little bit more in his youngsters as well. Hopefully that's a sign. We played Gabriel. He might have been forced to play him, but he's done it, and that's a good thing. And I think his man management is improved. The way we've got that flexibility and adaptability when we're missing players, Because let's face it, Jack. I don't know what it is with our team. It's been like that for years and years. We just seem to have. When's the last time you felt comfortable thinking that we've gone a run of 10 games and we've had no injuries? None. I can't recall it. I think there was one period recently where it got a bit better, but it didn't last. When have we had a team or a squad where we could have picked anyone without any problems because there's no injuries? We never seem to have it, do we? And with us as well, it always seems to be key injuries, not players that may be fringe players, but key injuries, key players like this season.
Yeah.
Did you really see with a season with Partey out, Zinchenko out, Timber, who we just got running and then gone? You know, it's like 4 or 5 already major players that we're doing without. And he's managing it brilliantly, I think. Yeah. I think it doesn't look bad, does it, going forward? And you know, the next few games, I know you said you don't like looking at it going forward, but in the Prem, but again mentioning it, they're winnable. There's no easy game. I'm not getting carried away. I'm not saying we're going to go this weekend. We're just going to go and bury them. We're not. They're all difficult games, especially the ones which are away from home. However, I think they're winnable, and. Yeah, you know, we can keep up there, keep in touch with the likes of Man City and Liverpool. Hopefully,
that's the tough part, isn't it? Because there's just so little room for error with these sides. You know, the City, we know they can go on a 15-game, you know, winning run. They've done it before. That's, you know, they did it basically last season until they knew they'd won it, and then they kind of sort of chilled out for the last few games of the season because they knew they had a Champions League final coming up. I mean, we're very aware of what they're capable of doing. Liverpool, you know, when they're at their best, they're also capable of doing it too. So, you know, but like you said, I do agree. I mean, we're definitely looking the best we've looked so far this season. It's a small patch to talk about in terms of game. You know, look at 3 or 4 games, so you want to see it over a longer period. But I do think we're looking definitely our most balanced at the moment with all these injuries that you talk of. The one thing I would say on the injuries is I'm adamant. I've been adamant all seasons that Arteta's also matured in that aspect too. I think last season, would Tomiyasu have made this squad for West Ham? Would he? I think he would have. Right, we flew him off the plane from Japan when we signed him and played him about 12 hours later. Like, would he have made this? I think he would have made this squad. Would Jesus, with a few-day knee injury that's now been 3 weeks, would he have made one of these squads? Probably would have. So I think he's seeing that, you know, if a player has a real problem or the medical team, I think he's listening to the medical team, because a lot of things in medical teams are grey areas. There's not always a definitive yes or no. Sometimes it's like, well, he's fit, but is he ready to play, you know, in a match game scenario? I'd advise give him another week. And maybe whereas before we went, well, we need him now, so we're going to take him now if you let him go. You know, there's a grey area with a lot of medical injuries. It's not always clear cut, broken leg, you're done, ACL tear, you're done. Big grey area where you give advice as a medical team. This is what I would do, but it's really dependent on you, coach, what you need. And I think Arteta's probably listening a lot more to the medical team. For that reason, we might look like we've got a lot more injuries. But do we? Do we have more injuries, or do we have more little injuries? But actually, longevity of time is not so much, and that would be what's quite interesting. And I don't know. Time will tell on that. We'll have to see how we progress through the season. When it comes to the pinnacle part of the season, do we have as many of our key members back? Because last year, when we went to City, we had a lot of players absent. When we played City at home, we had no Jesus, we had no Partey, etc., etc., etc. So I think he is being more sensible with it. It is still frustrating, like you said, that we do just seem to pick up more than the average. I mean, I know Liverpool have picked up quite a few this year, but City pick up very few. I mean, they pick up the big obvious ones like De Bruyne's, but then they pick up like very few to the key members of their team. And even when they do, they seem to come back awfully quickly. But, you know, the likes of Zinchenko and Jesus and Smith Rowe, they're going to have serious question marks come the summer, I think, Neil, because they just cannot stay fit for long enough. And, you know, Zinchenko's got his 4th calf strain of the last 12 months. Jesus, 3rd or 4th knee issue. Smith Rowe, there's always a problem with him, isn't there? I mean, I want to see him more as much as the next guy, but every time you see him, he picks up something. I mean, it's quite incredible. You see him for a couple of games and he's picked up something in training, and how many times can it happen? I mean, it's quite frustrating, but hopefully we're just being sensible with it. That's the hope. But we went in 4-0 at half time. Trossard goal. I was so happy. I mean, you rarely can you kind of relax and enjoy a game for a 45-minute period, but it was really fantastic. And at that point, you were thinking, "Oh, who can we change? What can we do? All that kind of stuff." And it was just terrific to see how we sort of played upon that. But Saka's goal, well, I mean, there were so many good goals, but Saka's goal and Declan Rice's goal, Neil, talk on them. I mean, it kind of looked like the Saka of last season there with that goal. It looked like they'd almost given up at that point, to be fair, but it was still fantastic from Saka. And then Rice's one and his subdued celebration. But what a finish.
Just quickly, I've seen you freeze a couple of times, Jack. So I hope
I've seen it on yours as well. It said internet unstable, but we seem to be still here. So should we carry on with it?
Right, yeah,
I don't know.
let's hope it.
I don't know if it doesn't say if it's my end or your end.
No,
my laptop's saying I'm strong and connected. So we'll see how we go. But I've not heard any issue on the sound. Have you heard any issue on the sound?
No, none at all.
Let's go with it. Let's see what happens.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Let
me quickly talk. I'll quickly talk about Rice's goal first, because that is started from the back. I don't know if you remember. I'm pretty sure it's Odegaard. He's in Saliba's position. He's defending. I don't know what led to that movement, because I can't remember. So obviously I'm watching the highlights, but it's him from the back, and it was a great team goal. If you think about it, all right, he jutted a little bit with White, and then I'd say it was a great dummy by Odegaard and Trossard. I think it was very clever.
Purposeful. It was great by Martinelli before it to get the ball out there, though, wasn't it?
Martinelli, White was involved. Martinelli was on it. Odegaard, I think, started it from the back. It was brilliant. But I think I may be wrong. I might be getting the two confused. I don't know. Or one of them missed chances. But anyway, whatever it was a great team move. You're probably right. I think West Ham at that point were looking to go home. I mean, all the fans had gone shopping. I mean, it was a great day out.
Over Stratford,
Westfield, wasn't it? Is it Westfield? Yeah, in Stratford, they had a great shopping day. Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh God, we never have internet issues. That's strange, isn't it?
No, this is really weird.
Yeah, it's weird, and I have no idea whose internet it is. But let's soldier on. I don't think it will affect the listing of it, but I'm going to note down the time. It's a shame I don't have a timer on it. Let's have a look here. Yeah, we'll carry on. But yeah, it's stuttering every now.
Yeah, stuttering. That's it. It's a good word. But no, it was a great team move, and I think Martinelli did very well. But the goal was just fantastic. It was brilliant, wasn't it? What a shot! It kind of like curled and kept curling to the left. I felt, but everyone, even the players, Saka had his hands on his head. I think Trossard did, or was it Odegaard? I can't remember. But they were laughing. It's almost as if they were embarrassed because they got it wrong between each other. And they're like, well, did it matter? Look at that. It was almost meant to be, wasn't it? It was meant to be him. Yeah. And I totally respected he's subdued. I like that. I think a couple of ex-Arsenal players could look at that and say, yeah, that's how we should have been when we scored against Arsenal after coming back against them. I thought he was very respectful. And I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that after the game, he was actually walking, because he was applauded by a lot of the West Ham fans, the decent West Ham fans that stayed and also weren't booing him when he was getting the ball. He went and mouthed sorry to them. Now, if that is true, I think someone has said this, if that is true, it just sums him up, and it wouldn't surprise me because it sums him up as a man and as a person. Sorry, as to what kind of person he is. I think there's a lot of good about this guy. He's just comes across as a very, very decent human being. He's got good morals, good ethics, good values, but he's also very competitive and very determined to do well in his chosen career. Yeah. And he's got all the attributes to be a great leader. Look, I know you are wax lyrical about Odegaard. You have been from the start. You're really behind him. But if ever there was to be a change in captaincy, it has to go to Declan Rice, Jack. There is no better person. For me, he's just a natural leader. But his goal was terrific. And also, if you go step back and look at Saka's goal, I think, again, West Ham were at the point where they just wanted to go home. They wanted to probably follow their fans and do a bit of shopping. But what a ball from Odegaard. Odegaard was just fantastic.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
He was absolutely brilliant. Everything he did in that whole game was quick. It was fast. It was one touch almost. It was lightning. His thinking, his process of thinking is incredible. He's so quick with it. And so many shots or chances that we missed. Again, I was talking about Havertz being behind a lot of it, but he was central to it as well. I think Trossard was involved. That's what, for me, 4 players of the match. It could have gone to 4 people. Rice, Saka, Odegaard and Trossard. They were the 4 standout players for me in that game. And again, Odegaard, his pass to Saka was beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's one chance where Saka missed. Was it the one where yes, it's the one where Saka could have had a chance, and he did. He went across the penalty box, and the keeper saved it, and then Kiwi had a chance, and he just made a mess of it. I think it's the build up to that goal. Again, there's a really good pass with Odegaard, but we had so many of these. I could be confusing them all, but there's one where he just cuts through the whole defence, and it was unbelievable the way he played. It's just so good.
It was fantastic. Yeah, he had 40 touches more than anyone on the team. Odegaard, he had 23 touches, and he had the highest pass accuracy with that, other than El Neni, who'd just come on. But in terms of the starters, he had the highest pass accuracy, other than Saliba from centre back. Which is crazy. But
Saka's finish, although West Ham had given up, was still good. It was tight angle, wasn't it? It was just bang. And you're right. I think he's coming back to what we saw last season. What a time to do it! Perfect time. Business end of the season coming up very, very fast. We've got Champions League soon, haven't we? The next after the Burnley game, I think. Is it? Is it after the Burnley game?
It's after the Burnley game away,
right.
and then we go. 100 goal contributions for Saka. Neil, in just over 200 games, almost equally split between goals and assists, which shows what type of player he is, really, doesn't it? I mean, he's not. I don't know what the stats are on other top wingers, but he's very much a team player, isn't he? He's not all about. I think this is his 10th goal of the Premier League season as well. So he's right there in terms of output. He really has been all season. What's dropped, we feel, has his sort of overall performance a little bit. But certainly since he's come back, he's looked like the Saka we know in terms of his overall performance. Even in this one, he was so involved in everything. And he just looked like a real threat. Again, a real threat. And I think Ben White's got a part to play in that too. He definitely looks fresher, doesn't he, Ben White? Which is really, really encouraging. He looks like he's overlapping more, even when he was kind of inverting a little bit. But yeah, like you said, I mean, that was the first link up from Odegaard to Saka for a goal since last season away at Spurs or something, which is crazy if that's true. But we need more of that because their link up can be devastating, really. But I do think, we've seen Saka, Odegaard, they've been really, really kicking into gear since Dubai. So like you said, long may it continue, because those are our guys. Those are our number guys. Those are the guys that get the goals and assists from last season. I think they were 2 top, weren't they, alongside Martinelli? So really fantastic. Yeah, I agree with you on Rice's subdued. It's interesting, wasn't it? You got some boos. And
he did touch his badge, though, which was lovely. He quickly touched his badge, if you remember.
Yeah. And it was interesting. I think it's weird, isn't it, the guys booing? I think they've kind of developed this sort of not false rivalry with but him going to Arsenal, because West Ham's biggest hated club in London is Tottenham. That's always been there. That's always at the, and I know we don't like each other as such, but we've never been like a hugely hated club either way. There's always been kind of a mutual respect to a degree. So I mean, I wouldn't like a player if we sold him either. I wouldn't love him, but he's done a lot for them. Won them a trophy. You'd kind of give them a decent-ish reception, I would have thought. But it seems like the ones that did dislike him are just upset because he didn't go to Manchester City, which I find really baffling. I'm like, I don't understand that whatsoever. But very strange. But overall, it did seem like he got a pretty decent reception. But he capped it off with probably a man of the match performance. Like, I mean, he was everywhere, wasn't he?
Fantastic.
And that is a sort of textbook finish for him. It seems to be, because that's exactly the same finish that he did at Chelsea away this season. I know there was no goalkeeper in there, but if you watch it, it's exactly the same. And it's about as good a finish as well. It's just the fact that there was no goalkeeper at Chelsea. No one really gave it the praise that it deserved. But I don't think the goalkeeper would have saved it if he was in the goal. He pinged it right into the corner there as well. Just the whip and the bend that he got on it was fantastic. But it was a great way to end a top level performance. And hopefully, Neil, away's concerned me a little bit this season, especially in the big games. Newcastle, Villa, I think we were unlucky in both, but we didn't create enough. This one, another big away game. London derbies are always big. And, West Ham, like I said, they are having a very good season, despite what some of their fans have recently been saying. So it was a big win, wasn't it? It was a big win to come off the Liverpool game, really.
That's it. It was huge. I mean, at the end of the day, it's difficult to follow up a momentous, I would say, win against Liverpool, because we utterly outplayed them, and then to say, have we got the kahunas to carry that forward? And boy, did we have! And I forgot to mention about Saka. To be honest, it just shows he impresses me so much. This kid. When he's not doing well, I mean, even in that match, he missed 2 or 3 opportunities, which normally he'd put away. And yet he still, despite missing the penalty against them in the last season, he still had the balls to actually pick it up and take it. And it was a great penalty, wasn't it? Yeah. His temperament, I don't think anything phases him. And I think there's something we knew and noticed about him after the rubbish he got after missing the penalty for the European Championships, and the crap he got from so many disgusting people, which was literally viral or horrific. It was so horrific. And he just he took it and he just carried on, and he's just got better and better. I was talking about what kind of man or what kind of person Declan Rice is just a minute ago. I have to say the same for Saka. And if we're starting to build a team with players with that great temperament and attitude, Jack, it's really looking good for the future. Because, I mean, look, Saka and Declan Rice, it feels like they've been around for years, but they're still very young, aren't they? They're both very, very young. So this is the future for us, as long as we can hold on to them. But the thing is, that's the only thing. We have to start. I know, look, none of us, especially on this podcast, we're not trophy hunters. We're not like that. Of course, we always want to win things. But we're not trophy hunters. We're not like some of these fickle fans out there. But I think in order to keep these kind of players, we do have to see something now. We've got to be getting very, very close, or we've got to be bagging things, because these players deserve to have something to say when their career's over. I've won this. I've got this in my trophy case. I've got this winner's medal here. So I think that's one thing. That's probably the only concern I have for the future. We need to hold on to these players. We need to start winning things. But I think we're in a great position. I know that you're going to be really happy when the transfer window comes to spend this year, because there's going to be so much for you and James to keep talking about, and Michael as well, to be fair. Yeah. But as it stands right now, we can't be getting anyone else in for the rest of the season. Got to do with what we've got, and I think we're doing the best we can with them. And that's a lot of credit has to go to Arteta as well. So we need to give him a shout as well for this game. Brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. It's been fantastic. And I guess, once we went 6-0 up, obviously we'd already started to make changes, but really good. It's apparently Jorginho was saying, get Ethan on, and all that kind of stuff. And I think we were all texting, we got to get Ranieri on here. And he gave him a good amount of time. He gave him 15 minutes or so. He doesn't have a lot of expression on his face, Ranieri, but he's a super talent. He doesn't look like, you don't know if he's smiling or unhappy. He just looks angry in every sort of just doesn't look like believes he's kind of there or whatever. But we don't know a lot about him as a person. Obviously, it's the second time we've seen him play in the first team. But he's a special talent, because City were in for him, Chelsea were in for him. We just about managed to sign him up. He's only 16 still. And obviously, he's part of the first team squads. That's why, when PSV game came along, and it was a dead rubber, and everyone was going, I want to see youngsters. And I wanted to see Ranieri, but I was kind of more kind of understanding on Winieri because he's only 16. But the concern I had was if you're like the 18-year-olds like Walters and you're still not getting in, and the likes of Cedric are getting on for you, I'd be a little bit more concerned for those players. We'll get to that in a second. But Winieri, I'm just like, I think this might be a guy that skips the loan phase. That's what I'm thinking. I think this could be a Saka. Well, Wilshere did go out on loan, didn't he? But some players just, they're so good that you don't want to let them go. You just want to keep them around the group. And I think Phil Foden I don't think he went on loan, did he? I think he might be that type of player. And he had he had 21 touches when he came on. That was more than all the subs, other than El Neni. It was more than Cody Gakpo had when he played at Arsenal last week in the 70 minutes. And he only played 15 minutes when Yeri. But it was amazing how they just kept giving the ball to him. I think there was one point where I saw Odegaard get the ball and he just saw Winieri and he just rolled it to him, like just like, go on, son, go and play. And you can tell that very confident in him. But I've got to say, when I watch him, he does mimic a lot of sort of the young Wilshere to me. Stature, short, stocky, left-footed. Kind of that attacking midfield role. I just wonder, Neil, I mean, I tweeted after it, I wonder how far away he is from taking on sort of the Vieira, Smith Rowe type role for next season. Not this season, of course, but for next season. And I think I've got a few back that, hey, come on, it's only his first game, But is that beyond? I mean, he looks so good. I think he looks so comfortable. What do you think about his sort of cameo appearance?
Yeah, I thought he looked at home. It was brilliant. He was assured, and confidence is just, you're right. There's no expression. That's why I was laughing, because I never thought of it, but you're right. You don't know what's going through his mind. You need to think that, wow, this is my first proper. I know he made that cameo, didn't he, when he was 15 years old, or was still in his diapers, I think. Yeah. But this is his first kind of proper substitute appearance. And you'd think that he'd be a little bit excited, but you can't tell.
Yeah, you can't tell.
You can't tell. So I think he looks so confident, so assured. I mean, even the way he was often running, you wouldn't even think that he's a youngster who's still, got to learn a lot. He looked like he's just one of our usual substitutes coming on. It was bizarre. And you're right, Odegaard was really, really kind of encouraging not just himself, but the others to pass to him, which is amazing, isn't it? Because we've spoken about players in the past where we're thinking they're not trusting them because they're not passing to them. They're kind of almost trying to develop the play but avoid them or cut them out of the loop, and they weren't doing it with him. Right, okay, there is an argument that he's come on with 6-0 up, for goodness sake. And, it's a comfortable situation, so no better, good start. You put a player on in a very comfortable position. And so I think, there's going to be a bit of that. What's he going to be like if we're chasing a game against Liverpool or something, or Man City, or even Tottenham? How do we see him then? But from what I saw of him, whatever few minutes he came on for, he looked so assured, full of confidence. He's not afraid to run at defenders. And you're right, he does. I was going to say he reminds me more of Smith Rowe, but I do see the Wilshere as well in him. And I think, look, I love Smith Rowe. I do. But if this thing is going to keep happening, I hate to think about it. I don't want to think about it. But there is a possibility that he might not be part of a long-term future. But if this kid can come in, if it's almost like we've got a replacement there, don't you think? A ready-made replacement. And we don't have to dip into the market. Yeah,
we're going to have to do that somewhere, Neil. I mean, if we've got a talent that, because we've got too many areas that we might want to fill, so we don't have all that money, do we? So the academy, if we can get one from there, is a diamond. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you're far off the realms of seeing him next season. If he progresses, it's going to be hard to include him a lot this season. If we're pushing for the title and we get far in the Champions League, it's going to be quite hard to see him a lot, isn't it?
See him again, yeah.
We might, unless we're going to start winning every game 6-0. Yeah. And do what we did to every single to go forward, what we did to West Ham. we're not going to see much of him. So the where we're going to see him is probably the friendlies. That'll be key in the summer. But then let's hope he is used for those. And who knows? He might get in. You got to remember, Saka and Smith Rowe came in because of injuries to other players.
Yeah, and we were a lot worse, weren't we?
Yes, we were. Yeah. We were, true. But I hope so, because I like him. And, once he bags his first goal, that's the only business. I want to know what the future is for Patino as well, because there was talk of that he wanted to leave. He came on in his debut, he scored that goal. I remember I was at the game and I've never seen a crowd so behind a player that was so relatively unknown, but it was almost as if he was the second coming. It was ridiculous. And when you get that from a fan base such as Arsenal's, and then all of a sudden you're talking about, I want to leave. If this was true, by the way, I don't know what the stories were. I was so shocked at that. And I always thought, well, go then. If you don't want to be part of this club, go. Because you are absolutely adored here. And I know where he's gone on loans, he's done really well. So I don't know what the future is for him, but this kid, certainly, I think you're right. We need to keep him. We need to develop him here because he does look as a special talent.
The weird thing with I don't watch enough of Swansea to really know. I see the clips that you see. But the weird thing with Patino is, as much as sort of people say, he's doing really well, and all that, he doesn't start every game for Swansea. He's on the bench for half of them. I think he's had 24 games this season and been on the bench for 12 of them. So I don't know. I mean, look, he's in the Championship. He's older, isn't he? How old is Charlie Patino? Is he 18, 19? He's definitely older than Ranieri, I would say. And they've got some similarities about that attacking midfield. He's 20 years old. He's 20 years old, Neil. So Patino, he's not young. He's not that young. I mean, he's youngish. But Saka and Smith Rowe were in the first team by that point. I know we signed him, but you need to be tearing it up in the Championship to be coming back in, I think, at this stage. Like, look, for example, like, people go on and on about Arteta plays youngsters less than Pep and Klopp. It's just untrue. It's simply untrue. I mean, if you look at Pep, Foden was already known as being a top talent, and he hasn't really been starting for City until the last year or two, right? He's been a bench player mostly for him. So, okay, Foden. Beyond that, who's he brought through? Rico Lewis came through last year. He's been there twice the amount of time as Arteta, and we're talking about 2 or 3 players. Then people started to say to us, this Oscar Bob who scored at Newcastle this season, well, he was a top talent from Norway that they bought. He wasn't a youngster they brought through. So it's nonsense. And then Klopp, he had Trent, who was their Saka in terms of a generational English talent. Who else did he bring through? There's no one else. Curtis Jones just started to start games this season. He'd been there 9 years, Klopp. Right, Connor Bradley, he started to play a few games at right back this season. He did. He got like player of the season out on loan for Bolton last year or something like that. So these players either go out and do amazing things on loan in lower leagues, and then you consider putting them in, or they just are, elite talents. And I think Ranieri, out of all the ones I've seen, Lewis Skelly and Coutinho, if I was to put a bet, and I said it before this game, that Ranieri would be the one that I think will have a really good chance of making first-team appearances next season. Maybe not a ton, maybe as much as Smith Rowe's making and Vieira's making, but that's still, you're getting some minutes off the bench, you're playing in the Carling Cup, you're playing in the FA Cup. That'd be huge for a 16, 17-year-old, wouldn't it? I mean, that'd be massive. And I saw Arteta go over to him after, and hopefully that 15 minutes gives him a real sort of confidence that he's in the right place and stuff like that, because I think we're going to lose a few. I think we'll lose Will Waters. He hasn't signed a contract. His contract's up in the summer. He's 18, 19. He's not getting in ahead of Cedric currently. I think we'll sell him.
That's crazy.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, why are you playing Cedric?
That was crazy. He brought Cedric on again, didn't he? So,
right. And other people have made the argument that, well, we could play Cedric this season if we get a few injuries. And I'm like, yeah, but we won't. We won't. If we get a few injuries, we'll drop Declan Rice back into centre-back and do something like that. We won't play Cedric. Like, not unless it's absolutely catastrophic. So you're not playing him for that reason. You're playing him because you probably know that Waters isn't part of the future. Or you don't want him to be. Maybe he's not good enough. because he would be one that I would have started against PSV, because at that time we had a lot of fullback issues, and that was the one I was like, that's weird, we've not started him there, and he didn't even get on, did he? I don't think.
No.
So I
None
think
of them did. None of them did.
No. And so I think Wanyeri is the next special talent, I think, coming from. I think so. He's got to be. If he's 16 and he's already amongst. But I thought he looked great. Looked great on the ball. Really comfortable. He looks really, really good. But overall, Neil, fantastic win. Really brilliant. What are your... We got Burnley next. Burnley away. I do have to say, I watched Burnley against Liverpool. And I know Liverpool flattered to deceive all the time, but Burnley had some massive chances. And I don't know, I looked at the XG and it was completely wrong, because I was like, Burnley had 3 or 4 massive chances in that game. And I don't know how Liverpool obviously had a lot of chances and won the game, but they should have scored more than one for sure. And they've got this new player, Fofana, who's pretty dangerous and tricky. But Neil, we've got to go to places like Burnley and win. What is your prediction? It's a 3 p.m. game on Saturday, and hopefully we've got 1 or 2 players back, maybe Tomiyasu, maybe Jesus. I'm not thinking anyone else is going to be back beyond that, to be honest.
It's always hard. I think I'm under no illusion that any team we play is a difficult one. For some reason, every team wants to beat us, which is one of those teams, isn't it? That everyone wants to. So they're going to be a tough team to play. I'm not concerned if it's the same team. I think we're playing brilliantly. So if there are still injuries and we can't bring anyone else in, same team, same bench, whatever, fine. We've done the job. It worked against West Ham. I think they are going to be difficult, but we've got the wind in the sails at the moment, and I'm not saying it because I always say we're going to win. I truly believe that we've got the momentum behind us. I think we'll do all right. I'm actually going to stick my neck out, because normally with away games, I'd say we're going to concede 1 goal. I think we're defensively solid, and I think we're going to win 3-0. And I think we're going to win 3-0. I think we're going to keep the goal rolling, the goal scoring continuation going, and I think who will score? I want to give Martinelli a goal. I think we need to see Martinelli score. So I think Saka's back. I want to get Martinelli back in the goal scoring realm. So let's get Martinelli 3-0 Burnley. And just a quick one, I want to just quickly say one thing. Champions League, this is like a new start for us in the Champions League, Jack. Yes, we did that amazing run with Wenger, which broke all records. I think, 20, 21 consecutive appearances, whatnot. But this is almost like new again. We've got a new manager, and it's almost new to us. And I don't think no one has spoken about this. We've done really well. This is our first stint back in the Champions League for a long, long time under a new manager, new players, and we completely bossed the group stages. I'm thinking now Man City, yes, they won it last season. It took them a few seasons to get anywhere near to winning it. And didn't they struggle in the first few seasons? I don't even remember them coming out the group stage in the first couple. Could be wrong. So I don't really look at other teams too much. But we've done, in comparison, if you want to compare Arteta and Pep, which I don't like doing, but a lot of people do that, we've had a far more successful start under Arteta in the Champions League than Pep has. So this is something to bear in mind. But anyway, just wanted to make that point.
Yeah. Well, you make a good point as well, because, the squad and the lineup have that in mind, because, obviously midweek games are starting a game for us, and we're away on the first leg, I believe. So will he have that in mind? What the hope is he has the likes of Tomiyasu and Jorginho, who was on the bench, but he couldn't really call upon because he hadn't trained all week, apparently. So hopefully Tomiyasu's fit, Jorginho's fit. Hopefully, I think it's unlikely, but we can see Jesus. And if you're sitting on the bench, great. And they have the possibility to start in the Champions League game, because we need to rotate 2 or 3 in those games. Typically, top teams will rotate 2 or 3, and the squad against West Ham didn't really have the numbers to do that. So hopefully we've got 2 or 3 back, because we do have too many players out at this point. It's kind of ridiculous. So yeah, but 3-0, fantastic. I'll go. Burnley always worked. I mean, you remember the Sean Dyche Burnley sort of teams, and we always struggled there as well. So, and then you got Vincent Kompany now, and obviously he's ex-City. So, but I'll go 2-0 I'll go 2-0, really.
Good.
I'll take any win, though. But I'll go 2-0, I'll go Odegaard.
Yeah, that's fine.
God,
can I also just say, look, Champions League is important. Of course, we all want to win it. It's one trophy that eludes us as a club. But for me, the priority still has to be the Prem. I think we should not make any sacrifices. We shouldn't think it's only Burnley and make sacrifices because we've got the Champions League. I think, no, don't do that. You've got to prioritise the Prem because, as you said earlier, it's too... Even drawing now is not good enough because City and Liverpool are so bloody clinical. You cannot drop points anywhere. And I just feel, I still would always say, if someone said to me, choice between Champions League and Prem, I still always go for Prem, even though we haven't won the Champions League. Because for me, the Prem is just...
It's just the best team, isn't it?
Absolutely. 38 games, you're the best over 38 games. The Champions League, as glamorous and as amazing and as big as it is, and all the romance with it, it's still a cup competition when it all is said and done. And I just feel that the Premiership is just an outstanding certificate of achievement for a whole entire season. Yeah. And for me, we've got to prioritise the Prem. We've got to. We cannot slip up at all. We've already, as I said, we've already lost those 4 games. We don't want to lose too many more. We have to make sure we prioritise the Prem. So that's how I would say it. Unless it gets to the point where we get through even further, make more progression. But you know what? I still think we'll be fine for both games. I do believe it. I think we'll come away with something against them as well, because I don't think it's the worst tie in the world. And I just feel that we've got enough about us. I'm not saying we will win with a stampede or anything like that, but I think we'll come away with something and we'll be all right for the return leg at home.
Yeah, so, fingers crossed. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard in the Prem. I mean, I don't look like you. I don't look too far ahead in fixtures, but I know we've got a lot of the top 10 to play away from home. In fairness, West Ham were one of them. We got those out of the way. We've still got to go to United. We've still got to go to Spurs. We've still got to go to City. We've still got to go to Brighton, I believe. And there's 1 or 2 others in there as well. And obviously, Liverpool and City have got tough games too. But Liverpool play City before we play City. I know that much. So, there's games to come where teams will drop points. You just got to try to just focus on your own results, really. Yeah, just beat Burnley and then it's a good weekend again because, we had the hardest fixture this weekend, to be honest. I mean, I know City played Everton at home. You expect them to win that. And they actually struggled for long periods in that game. I know it looked comfortable in the end, but I watched it. And I swear to you, they barely created a thing before the 60th minute. And then it looked comfortable. But they really did struggle to create something before the 60th. And that wasn't intentional. And like I said with the Liverpool game, they had a lot of injuries too, in fairness to Liverpool. But it was very topsy-turvy. It was 1-1, but it should have been, they could have easily gone into the lead. Burnley, it was really kind of like back and forth as well. But the crazy thing with Liverpool is I've watched that almost all season with them, and that's what I said going into the Liverpool game. I went, they concede a hell of a lot of chances in comparison to us, but they have cheat codes to get them away with it, like Alisson and Van Dijk and stuff like that. But Van Dijk has looked, not just against us, in fairness, he has looked sloppy in the last 3 or 4 games, and I'm sure he'll clean it up because he's a top centre-back. But if you watch against Chelsea, it was his fault, their goal. I know they won 4-1. Against us, it was his fault. If you watch this game, the goal wasn't his fault, but 2 of the chances were his fault that they should have definitely scored from, especially the first one. In the first half, he got absolutely rinsed on. And wow. I was watching it going, that was interesting. Like I said, I think he's him alongside Saliba are the 2 best centre backs in the league. But I think Gabriel isn't far behind, to be honest. But
yeah, agreed.
But yeah, like you said, there's just so little room for error. But you can only take care of yourselves. And at the moment, we're doing that. So let's hope we do that again this weekend. If there were internet issues on this, I think for about 5 minutes it looked a bit dodgy. And then from my end, it looked clean. So hopefully it looks clean on everyone's end and it doesn't look too bad. There might be 1 or 2 stuttering moments. Apologies for that. We're at Purely Arsenal FP on Twitter. Purely Arsenal. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Just type in Purely Arsenal and you can see our video podcast there a little bit earlier. But if you want to look for us and ask us any questions, just go to Twitter, Purely Arsenal FP. We are there. Neil, thank you so much. Up the Arsenal. Always brilliant chatting to you about it. We're doing fantastic at the moment. It's a joy to talk about. So hopefully more the same when we chat next week. Up the Arsenal, fingers crossed.